knock this out of the park, but we'll give folks a couple more minutes to take care of themselves in between sessions, and we'll get ready whenever you guys tell us we're ready. Okay.
No, but we live in the Zoom room, so we are here to stay.
This is our world, baby. This is our world. It's the new world of 2020. Emily, Lori, what's going on? Emily, Lori, Kimberly's in the building. Wendy's in the building. Shayna is in the building. That's a funny picture of the dog. That's hilarious.
Now I'm missing out. I need to go get my dog now. So.
Right.
Rusty loves to smile like that.
Really?
He's my golden, yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow, he's like a dark color golden.
He is, and he's a big old bear. He's about 110 pounds.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I'm sure he
He's
laid
huge.
everywhere.
Yes.
Hello, Katie. Look at
Katie. Okay,
Popping
Katie.
in.
Michelle's in the building. I see you, Michelle Wicks in the building. Okay.
Blessed us with her presence.
Yes.
We must be a big deal, guys.
Rick, what's up? Rick is in the building. Rick, Shayna, I see you, Shayna. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello.
I had candy. I give everybody candy right now. I be passing out the little candies to everyone.
Yeah, he'll let you borrow his hat. He'll say,
Right,
"You
listen,
hat."
I just wore this because I want everybody to be a star. That's it. You know, nothing, personal. I just want everybody to be a star. Clinton's in the building.
How's everyone's day going so far? Solid.
That's good. Thumbs up, baby.
The real thumbs up and the virtual thumbs up.
The educational thumbs up. Thumbs up if you hear me. 2 claps if you hear me. The stuff we try to take over to the Zoom world.
Look at that.
Here you go, Wendy. I see you, Wendy. Hey, Kathy, what's going on, Kathy? How are you today?
Okay, it's the first I've seen Lori in ages. It was like, hey, Lori.
How are ya?
Okay, how about you?
Good.
Not Otis for once. He's like over here, not
Listen, Chelsea has this dog, guys. I want to tell you, Chelsea has this dog. This dog, if you ever, I don't know if you remember, there was a show back in the day called Gremlins. And this dog looks like Gizmo.
Yeah.
I mean, with your ears, Chelsea, you got to show your dog. You have to. It's a
And
must.
he's sleeping for once in his life, so at the
He's
end we'll wake him from his.
Oh, man. Okay, we'll let him nap. But I'm going to pull up the picture for him. I'm definitely going to get it. Tom in the building. What's up, Tom?
It's Tuesday. And if you're in Indiana, folks, it's your second day back. Welcome back.
Welcome back. Back to the Zoom world, baby. You left live but came back in Zoom. Man.
Parker, Marcel's coming in.
Marcel Parker's in the building.
Oh, yes.
Listen, here's what we're going to do, guys. As you guys start to come in, I'm going to need everybody on here. I need to see faces. One of our criteria is faces. I want to see everybody's face. Clinton, thank you. I appreciate it, Clinton. Cynthia Williams from Memphis is in the building. Khalila's in the building. I see great faces.
Rusty is cuter.
Thank you.
Let Rusty be my picture.
Wendy, okay, no camera. I got you, Wendy. Appreciate it. I love it, Rick. Let's wait to get our eat on, baby. I love it. I love it. Let's do it.
Yes.
Julia, how you doing, Julia? Glad to see you, Julia.
Oh, Kalila, hello. My name.
Hi, I'm doing good. Thank you.
Good. Welcome.
We won't start butchering names, but if we do, we apologize.
Right.
You
Kelly
never.
Evans is in the building.
Rashawn has changed his Zoom name multiple times. So you never
Listen,
know.
I change my name all the time just to keep people thinking. It's boring to keep the same name, so I'll change it every now and again to something different, and you might be like, yo, who's that?
You never know. I see Parker. Hello, Marcel. Well, good morning, everyone. It's awesome to see you guys. We love seeing people. That's our best thing. Well, should we start or should we wait till more people come in, Marcus and Katie?
I will keep letting them in, but I think you are good to get this show rolling.
Okay, cool. So I'm gonna share my screen. I hate sharing the screen because then all the Brady Bunch faces go away. But I'm
I
gonna
love the
share
Brady
my
Bunch.
screen
I love the
so
Brady
we can
Bunch.
get started. We're gonna start introducing ourselves and we're gonna get going to what we are. So I turn to V to introduce himself while I share my screen.
All right, guys. First of all, I want to say welcome everybody to our presentation. We are excited to host you guys. This is definitely a presentation about prioritizing, balancing school culture always. As we go through this presentation, please, 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 please utilize the chat room. If you want to say something, unmute yourself and say it. This is not, we don't want to talk at you. We want to talk with you. And again, we are not the know-it-all on all of this. So start to think about what it is, how this works in your world and how we can support each other. And you may give us some great ideas that we can utilize in the Google Excel Center. So I'm Vershawn Terry. I'm the manager of special education, GEC DC, and Chelsea is our school director. And we are excited to present to you about what we're doing in DC. And we're excited about that. So prioritizing and balancing school culture always.
Yeah.
All right, Chelsea, let's grind.
All right, so we are going to kind of go back and forth here, and like V just said, please use the chat box. Our goals of this session is to identify your ideal school culture values and pillars, and also leave you with a framework to kind of build out your school culture values in action. Like V said, we are not the experts. I just think that we've worked in the last 5 years. It's crazy. GEC DC is now year 5, which is truly crazy. In the last 5 years, culture has kind of been our focus, and how we've gotten to where we are today has taken a lot of effort and energy and a lot of focus and prioritization of it. So we're here to share some best practices, lessons learned. Vershawn has now changed his name to Crispy Bacon, which is, check him out. He's our new guy.
Let's change it up.
And so V and I are a big fan of sports. You're going to see a theme here throughout that has sports related themes, but do not fear, it's not all sports related. And so we're going to dive right in and kind of get into who we are, what you see. So here we go. So V, tell us about our leadership team.
Man, our leadership team, you'll see pictures of us, our leadership team. For us, we've been in this Zoom world, obviously, since March. This has become norm for us. This is pictures of all of us on our Zoom room. And we all, on our teams, this is actually on Teams, actually. We're a very creative bunch. And we all have, just like your schools, we all have different personalities, different things we have going on, different cultures and background. And one thing I can say about our leadership team is that, one, we support each other. We support each other's ideas. We shoot each other's ideas down, but we're open to each other, But we're, at the end of the day, it is still student focused, but it's an opportunity where we're listening to each other to reach the greater good of GEC and our mission and our values. So this is pictures of us in there. You'll see this card here. I'm gonna talk about what that HSGHGB means in just a second. But again, we're just a fun group, want to support students. So this is called Cultural Tag of the Day. You may have seen Tom or Latia may have done in their session, but this is Cultural Tag. What Cultural Tag of the Day is this? There's a Black woman who came up with this game. Right? It looks like this, and I'll give you the information at the end of what it is and where you can also go get it. It's a great fun thing. So every day in our leadership meeting, we do 2 things. We do cultural tag of the day, and we do the riddle of the day. Because we obviously, everything isn't always work. It's always about making sure we infuse fun with work as well. So CTOD, this is the world of hashtags and acronyms and LOLs and all of those great things. So this game is it's like Taboo meets Heads Up meets charades, but with the hashtag culture. So we'll begin. We'll do one for you. I want everybody to think about it. So here's the hashtag. So it's IYSYL. Here's the clue. If you get the answer, type it in the chat box, or you can unmute and say it. All right, here's the clue 1. It's a theme. It's a saying. Something someone might say when another person isn't paying attention. All right, here we go. Who we got? So here's the initials, IYSYL.
And it's a saying that you hear a lot.
You hear it a lot. Who has it? Who has it? Who has it? Okay, you guys are excited. I see you thinking. I see the smoke coming out your ears. You're thinking hard. Right. Lori, you're close. It's right there, Lori, on the tip of your tongue. I see it, Lori. Shayna, what you think, Shayna? No, Shayna's like, I don't have a clue what that says. I'm going to give you the answer.
Are you ready?
We go. Ready? If you snooze, you lose. Make sense? If you snooze, you lose. All right? So because you guys did it well, we're going to do another one. This is like off the cuff. I'm going to show you the card. I'm going to give you the acronyms again, and you're going to try to guess it, okay? And I'll give you the clues. Are you ready? Let's see. Let's do
I'll type it in the box. What is it?
ICWY. ICWY. Looks like this one. ICWY. Looks like this. This is Black Twitter. What do you think this means? I'll give you a clue. It's when people say, when they don't feel like messing with people, they're getting on their nerves. Yes, Katie! Katie, you got it, Katie! Let's go. Give it up for Katie. I can't with you. Melissa got it. Yes, Les. Good job. Good job. All right, one more, Chelsea.
One more, and then
One
last
more.
one.
The last one. Here we go. This gets so fun. We get competitive in our leadership team, and this gets so fun. All right, here we go. Now I'm gonna make this one a little bit harder. This one is this is words to live by. That's the category. Words to live by. Chelsea, you ready to type it?
Yeah.
The long one. IYCSTHGOTK. Got that, Chelsea? This is what it looks like. Now, let me give you the clue. This is when people cannot, they don't like stress, or they don't like the pressure. People used to say, yes, yes. Who's that? Nate in Rutherford? Let me see. Who's that? Yes, there you go.
Nikki.
Nikki Rutherford.
Nikki, let's go, Nikki. Let's go. Let's go, Nikki.
This is a cameo. So y'all might think we're crazy, which we
Yeah,
are.
we are. We're a blast.
We
We're a
are
blast.
crazy.
But
Nikki,
this is honestly something that we use to kind of break the ice in our leadership team meetings. We also have someone who's designated to do the riddle of the day. It just makes everything light. It keeps it going, and also just an opportunity for us to have fun. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Yep, and I think also the reason I wanted to show it to you is because you might think like, oh my God, these people have so much energy. I promise you it's not forced. Like, it lets people bring it to the surface naturally without feeling forced, and also creates like authenticity. I know V will laugh, but when people aren't feeling it on certain days when we do our team meetings, you know if you have the culture tag of the day, you have to somehow shift your mindset because it's coming at you, right? So I think there's small things like this that are going to tie into our presentation that kind of are easy things that you can do to shift the culture in your building or in your team really quickly. And it doesn't take a lot of effort to make a quick shift with something like that. And it's a natural form of celebration because you can easily, Nikki, we're pumped for you. You got it. Katie,
Yes.
way to go. It's an easy way to celebrate someone on something that is very minute, but really feels big at a certain time. So this ties into what we're doing because we are here to kind of talk about culture. And the first part of culture is, why are you here? So we want to know in the chat box, if we can get a few people to type, why are you here in this session? You obviously, as V told me yesterday, all of y'all signed up. We want to know, why are you here in this session to be here? Like, what do you hope to take away from today? And while you think and type, and because I don't like silence, I will speak for a second and say, this is the question we ask all of our new students in IXL and all of our staff every single meeting. So like, the why is critically important, because if you don't know why you're here or what then you can't do the what or the how. And so I see some great ones. So learning how to improve campus culture, how to create a positive culture, energy, perfect. Learn about what's happening, perfect. So I see a theme, and V and I are looking at the chat box, that like, we want to learn how to generate and create a positive culture. That's definitely the why. School culture is the foundation of what we do. I think Rashawn and I would agree 100% that school culture guides you and makes it go into what's going on. So how do you start with school culture is what we're here to kind of explain. So V, I turn it to you.
Gotcha. So the culture in the why does it matter, right? I can remember when I was in school, the definition I remember of culture from history back in the days when I was in high school and to me is the way of life. It's our way of life. what I want you to do as we go through, look at the pictures that you're going to see. The pictures here, these are authentic pictures of people in our school, students in our school, staff in our school. I want you, as we type through the chat box, tell me what you notice, just even by the pictures that you're seeing, right? The why is this. Someone said it in the chat box. You have to be here. Why not make it a fun experience as much as possible? Why not support our students in a fun, engaging learning environment? It doesn't always have to be a rigid experience. It can be a fun experience. It can be an opportunity for growth. Just doesn't look in the classroom about we just doing our lesson every single day. It's about building a fun, supporting, joyful, appreciative atmosphere. So everybody's in a support of each other. And not just that, why not come to a place where you're celebrated rather than tolerated, right? Go where you're celebrated. I tell my kids that all the time. When they were ready to pick colleges, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. No one wants to just be somewhere, right? So we try to make it important. That's our why. We want to celebrate everyone in the building in different ways. And you'll see different ways today on how we actually celebrated students, how we celebrate staff, how we celebrate the leadership team, because it is important. It's probably one of the best things that keep us going beside that paycheck every 2 weeks or every month, is the celebration outside of the green. Go ahead, Chelsea.
I think someone took our slide. People know what we're about to talk about, culture, joy, celebration. So get ready for the studiers because you might know what we're about to talk about. So, so our culture values. So we've kind of, in thinking about GEC and where we are today, we've kind of narrowed down and said our 3 culture values at DC GEC are celebration, joy, and appreciation. And kind of the journey to getting there, how do we get there? So we told you earlier, we are a sports-centered team right here. And so we're going to kind of use sports as a way to kind of explain our 3 culture values and expand it out. You'll see my favorite team at the top right there, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. You'll see Rashawn's favorite team, then a mutual favorite at the bottom. And so when you see these pictures, what comes to mind? What do you think? We have some Cowboys fans apparently on here. You see joy, you see celebration, appreciation, and we're going to kind of go through each of these words and what they actually look like. We can say we want to have a culture of celebration, but how do we get that to actually feel like a culture of celebration in our building? And what do these words actually look like when you see them in the building, and not just when you see them, but how they're perceived when others see them. So we're going to lead you through like a 10 minutes of our building, and then we're going to take a step back and have you reflect on your building. So our first value is celebration. So what does it mean to have a culture founded in celebration? How does it look? So when you think about celebration in the chat box, just think about how do you know you're celebrated? What does celebration actually look like? How do you know as a school leader, as a school team member, as a student that you're really celebrated? Who's being celebrated? What's being celebrated? So take a moment and just reflect on these questions and think about, when is a time that you felt celebrated at your school? All right, and then I'm going to shift to this, which V is going to share with us. And here's how it looks for us.
Celebration. So how does it look for students? And I want you guys to continue to think about what you guys do in your schools, because you know what? I want to steal some ideas from you guys, right? I remember last year when we went to the Excel conference, one of the things, I got some things from team in Memphis. I was like, oh, I like that. I'm stealing it, right? Because my thing is, we got to support each other. And we want to just share things where everybody can benefit from it. So how it looks for students, we do Spirit Weeks, right? Where every day of the week, we even did it in the Zoom world. We kept our same Spirit Week. What we're doing in the Zoom, we did it in the brick and mortar world as well. So where every day was a different theme, like, and you guys probably have done Spirit Weeks. We had different themes. So our recent one in the real world, we did a Pride Week. We did Black Pride. We did the LGBT community Pride. We did Pride just in general for that week, and it looked different every day. We took pictures. We captured them in classroom with their paraphernalia on, or something that represented their pride for that week. And whatever day that they were doing. And we posted it on our Instagram. It wasn't like we just said, or our Twitter or our social media account. We didn't just say, you know what, we're taking a random picture. We just want to have it. No, we wanted to let them know we appreciate you. We're going to celebrate you. So we do all kinds of staff events from the beginning of IXL all the way to the end. We do award ceremonies. We have an X celebration where we do end of the term celebratory awards where we have the Barack Obama Award, we have the Malcolm X Award, we have the Oprah Winfrey Award, and then we have Honor Roll, and all those superlatives that we use to really celebrate our students. Even in the virtual world, we did the same thing. We kept that going. As I said, social media shout outs. We are living in a social media generation. So we want to communicate with them the same way they communicate with each other, even some of the older generation. We want to make them as hip as possible as well. So we have staff outings when we go out. So like before school came out, we went to the African American Museum as a staff, just to show them, hey, we're celebrating you. We catered food constantly. I think we're eating staff. We like to eat. So and we have tons of places in DC to get it in. So when you come to DC, we got you. Just want to let you know. And how's it look for staff? We do Rides Awards weekly. So every morning huddle on Monday, we're highlighting our staff member who are doing what they're supposed to do, but not just that, going above and beyond. It is hard in this virtual world, guys. So we want to celebrate our staff to say, hey, listen, thank you. I can remember just for us in DC, and I'll just speak from the SPED standpoint, we have a lot of attorneys that we deal with who represents our students. And our coaches are constantly communicating, and it takes a lot to communicate with some of these attorneys. And so we want to highlight them sometimes. And we just say, hey, we want to celebrate you as a staff. We have a staff rap session. So our staff rap session is on Fridays or Thursdays or Fridays, depending on what's happening. And this is not for the leadership team. I got kicked out one time. I tried to sneak in. It didn't work. Somebody kicked me out. It was like, you're not supposed to be in here. I was like, all right, I'm out. So it's just for the staff to kind of have fun and just talk to each other via the Zoom. And they just go back and forth. Where we have teams where they talk back and forth. They have their virtual cocktails and, and real cocktails, and, they have fun and just kind of share a different moment with each other. We gotta work and live with each other. So we might as well have fun. They talk about people, no, I hope they're not talking about people, but you know how it is. But, and then we do shout outs, right? One of the things we like to do is we like to shout out people. We shout out people in our leadership staff meetings. We talk about our staff members that are doing well, things that are going really well for them. And we like to give them shout outs. Anytime we come together, we want to say, hey, shout outs, not just from leadership to our staff, from staff to staff. When they say, listen, I like to thank Mr. Keeks for doing X, Y, and Z, or Mrs. Such and Such. And then also we have staff who lead PD sessions, not only in the brick and mortar, but also in the Zoom. And one of them is really good, talking about microaggression. If you didn't register for the microaggression one, it's really, really good. It's being done by Ms. Jones, Brittany Jones. It's a really good one. Then also staff outings, as I talked about. We try to take different trips as a staff to kind of get away from the building, have fun. But now we're doing virtual trips with each other. So those are just some of the things and how it looks in the staff for staff and students.
And and for us, celebration is key. So if there's a day that celebration is not felt, then we as a culture have failed, right? So there's always something to celebrate, even if it's something small. And Vershawn makes a point. So if there's no one who's Rise Awards, which are every Monday we give out awards to our staff. If there's not someone to recognize, that still doesn't mean we don't have to shout them out, right? There might not be a Rise Award, but we want to make it consistent that we have to keep doing the celebration structures that we have to keep the momentum going. So we've got celebration. And then our next culture value, I forgot to put a montage together. Here's a virtual montage of celebrations. Vershawn is right here. We had a virtual prom, aka virtual spring fling. So here is kind of like all of our celebration, our Spirit Week, everything that we had. Vershawn and Dimitri were our DJs. So, and then celebration in the building looks no different. I will truly say shifting to virtual has not felt that different because our culture is grounded in celebration. What's felt different is where we live, but the culture has not changed. And that's because I think the culture of celebration was so high before we left the building. So the next culture value that's really critical is, I give it to Vershawn.
Joy, baby, joy. I mean, when you see that picture right there, that should do something to you. I'm not telling anybody to feel joyful, but that picture with Dak Prescott and that Salvation Army, giving back, just giving. Dallas always just gives back. Too bad we don't have any more Super Bowls in the 2000s, but we gave them back. But anyways, what does it mean to have joy for the GC community? I think, and then also, how do you create joy and what does it look like? Joy in a sense of it. When you start, first of all, I'll piggyback on the celebration piece. Once you celebrate, it gives people a sense of pride on where they work, right? You feel good about the community that you work with, the individual that you work with, even though it's stressful. you know internally somebody has your back, and it makes you feel good, and it's a joyful. Then you have, now it starts with the leadership team. We support our staff that goes through many ups and downs, just like everybody else. And we create that things by many ways, even having one-on-one conversations that just say, hey, we're here to support you. You know, we're here to do this for you. And then not just that, allowing that to pass from one staff member to another. It's sharing notes. It's sending a text message through Teams saying, hey, great job. Or it feels good to work with you. Thank you. So it's an opportunity for us to continue to be joyful in our own work and also continue that feel of celebration. Joy is a product of that celebratory environment that we create.
Yeah. And I think to piggyback off V, so when you think about joy, he said this quote earlier, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. You feel joy when you celebrate, when you feel celebrated, but you have joy when you like what you're doing. So when we started with the why earlier, that's so critical because joy is created from doing what you do and why you do it. So I think a very focal part of our staff is, and I'm starting with staff and not students intentionally, because you've got to get the staff bought into your culture. And we're going to talk about the buy-in piece once we get through appreciation. But staff have to feel joy for what they do every day, right? If you didn't feel joy, it would be very hard to do the work we do every day. And the joy that's created has to be authentically created. And Rashawn said it earlier, starting with the leadership team and then carried on by everyone else that goes around. And students are who carry that joy. The students can't be the ones generating the joy. The joy has to be created from the infrastructure of the school. And so I also think Rashawn's going to ask you a question and type in the chat box, but the work has to be centered on the students. So though we have to start with the staff and say, how do we create joy? The big thing is, how do you center that on the students and their outcomes and create joy from seeing the outcomes of students, right? And then the why you do what you do. So V, what are they about to type in this chat box?
All right, so I want you guys to think about a time in your work environment, a time where you did not feel joy or celebration. And what did it look like and how did it feel? Where you did not. And we're gonna go on mute for a second. And I want to give you guys an opportunity, some think time or wait time, as we know in education. I'm going to give you some wait time. Katie's watching me. I'm going to give you some wait time so you can type in when you did not feel. What did that feel like? How did that feel? All right. I'm going to go on mute. Chelsea's going to go on mute. I'll give you 30 seconds. This goes out to Tom's group. Okay. Tom Heikenridge. Tom, this is pulling the game for you, Tom. Kathy, I know you know celebration. I know you know. Kathy, I know you know celebration. I see you moving, Kathy. Oh, Sarah, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
All right. So
thank you for sharing that. I appreciate Christy. It was focused. Yes, I agree.
Awesome responses. And I think as V and I read these, the word uncertainty, not what best for students, this feeling of laying in bed, not feeling good to get up to do something, those are all keys of not feeling celebration and joy, right? And we've all, I mean, not to speak for everyone, but people have been in a place where they felt those in their environments and their cultures, right? And the question is, how do you know what that feeling feels like and not have that in your current space where you're living and breathing? Yeah. So we've talked about celebration. We've talked about joy. The pinnacle of these two words is all tied into our third culture value, which is.
Hold on, Charles, 1 second before you move forward. I think that, guys, thank you for sharing that. There's some really good feeling things that you guys felt, feeling like the team was against you, not on the same mission, like we weren't trusted. Those are not good feelings, especially on Sunday. You know, you got to go back to that place again. Wow, not on the same mission. Listen, we really appreciate that. Frustration, anxiety, numbers, yes. Focus on numbers instead of people, yes. All those things are perfect. That is exactly what it feels like not to have joy, not to being celebrated. That's not a good feeling. It doesn't make you want to go to work every day. Feeling invisible, feeling like your efforts weren't significant, right? And I believe that, honestly, effort is a skill, right? So when someone doesn't appreciate your effort, nobody wants to go to work and you're stressed and you have anxiety. All of those feelings that you guys share, those are real, right? Being invisible, those are real. You rather be in a place where someone knows your name, right? You'd rather be in a place where someone is celebrating you. They're not just tolerating you, not just you as the person, your ideas. And that's truly important. Thank you. I definitely appreciate, we definitely appreciate you sharing your thoughts. That was a huge, go ahead, Chelsea. Thank you.
And I think also for sharing them and your authenticity and your vulnerability in sharing them, because it's a lot, and I know we're in these Zoom worlds, but it's true. And I think to Vershawn's point, it's how do you know you felt that way and been able to name it, which is the most important thing, and then naming it and knowing that you don't want to be able to live in that place. And we're going to talk in a second, but naming it's the most important. We all say we have felt this way, but what's the actual label or name given to the emotion to not feel that way? Like that idea of uncertainty, I know I can speak from a previous school as in feeling like, what does my schedule look like today? That idea of uncertainty of when I walked in the building. And so I think if you can name the feelings, then connect them to culture values that you don't want, but that you do want, then that's the key to where you need to move, right? And I think not treat as if we are professionals, that's so hard, right? So how do you create an environment where people are looked as the experts in what they do, and they're celebrated and they have joy because of what they bring, which ties into the third foundational pillar of our culture values, which is appreciation. So I think Vershawn and I are going to kind of talk back and forth here, but if you don't feel appreciated, then you don't want to come to work, right? But you only feel appreciated if there's a culture of celebration and there's a culture of joy. So you can do what you want to do and you're celebrated for being great at what you do, but then how are you appreciated? And also the idea of like, what do people need to feel appreciated? Not everyone feels appreciated the same way, right? So looking at your team and looking at the staff in your building, how do people know, how do you know? Well, one, have you asked people, what do you need to feel appreciated? How often have you asked your team that, your staff that, the people you work with, your colleagues? And two, how often have you felt appreciated, right? Like if you sat down with your colleagues and asked, do you feel appreciated? How often have you felt appreciated? What would their responses be?
Right.
And so V.
So appreciate. So here's one thing that's important. When we talk about appreciation, and we can show these things in different ways. How does their staff want to be appreciation? This is an opportunity for leadership team members to really know their teams. I think it's important to get to know them individually. One thing I know when I grew up in teaching, and I've been in education for 20 plus years, is that even in the classroom, one of my pillars that I built on was rules without relationships lead to rebellion. Rules without relationship lead to rebellion. If I don't build a relationship with you, there is no way I can guide you, I can lead you, I can appreciate you. So it's an opportunity to know your staff. It's an opportunity for us to know each other so we can appreciate the great things about each other. Each team member has a different love language, right? We talk about love language when we talk about it from a relational standpoint with your partner, with your spouse, but it's the same thing, same principle, even at work, right? I know each one of my staff members, what their love language is. I know what Chelsea's is. I know all leadership team, everybody on my SPED team. I know exactly what their love language is because I wanted to take the time to know them. So when I appreciate them, I want them to know it, right? On top of that, I want to continue to give them with every day something. Hey, hope you're having a great day. Man, thank you for doing X, Y, and Z. We just had an audit from OSSI. In the middle of the audit this morning, as they're randomly pulling cases, I'm sending messages to my team. Hey, they just pulled one of yours. Listen, once they went through it, hey, you did a great job. Awesome. I appreciate it. And they actually did because, well, if it would have got dinged, I might have had a different conversation. But it worked out great. But it was good. I want to let them know that I appreciate you, right? I'll send them a gift card. We'll send them a gift card. I'll put some money. I'll buy them lunch. We take our staff to breakfast where we might go to Founding Farmers. Don't forget that. If you come to DC, you got to go to a place called Founding Farmers. It's like that. Look it up on your internet.
And B, there's a great question. Cynthia just asked, how did you identify your staff language of appreciation? So that's the biggest question. And the answer is ask them. So in our evaluations in our team meetings, so as a school director, I'm always talking to my leadership team, asking them our evaluation system. It's kind of so it's not a one size fits all. It's not a one directional conversation. We meet with our team members in one-on-ones throughout the term. But the biggest thing is that you have to ask the people on your teams, right? You can't assume anything moving into how you appreciate people. And I think though the question might feel awkward, like, hey, how are you appreciated? It's the most positive question that can carry on and create the school culture you want. And you know, people might not know how they're appreciated. Think about relational aspects. People might not know. I'm gonna laugh at Rashawn, but the other day he was like, I think I like acts of service. He's like, you know, someone just did something for me. Like that was, I forget what they were doing, but it was.
No, I got my blue shirt in the mail.
Oh,
I got my blue Excel shirt, right?
did.
And I was like, yo, I got a gift. And somebody gave me a gift, and I opened it up. It felt like Christmas in June. I was like, yo, I got an Excel shirt. I'm balling right now. So it was random, but it felt really, really good. And then go ahead, Chelsea, finish.
I think, and I think when you look at, if you look at love languages and apply them, the same foundation exists, right? So like, I always tell this story. I think, you know, I'm a big note writer. I can see Rashawn shaking his head, but the thing about it is not everyone likes notes, right? And I have never been so upset when I saw someone like skim a note I read that like I spent a lot of time to write a note. And the thing about it is not everyone appreciates like that type of appreciation, right? So it's how do you know? And the simplest answer is to A, to ask them, and B, to make it your whole school culture, right? It's not just one team showing appreciation, it's everyone and being real and authentic. And
I
then
think it's important to piggyback on that, or as Chelsea says, one more thing, is that honestly, it's an opportunity to really listen to people when you're building. Sometimes, you know what we do, guys? We pseudo listen. When we pseudo listen, we're just listening to get our next point across. We're not really listening to them. We're like, oh yeah. And but we didn't really take time to hear what they said, because people will clue you in to what they're saying. I always say, listen to what they don't say. They'll clue you in to what they're saying, and you can figure out what their love language is if you just have a conversation with them and you're really genuine in their conversation. I can tell you what different staff members' love language. Like, for example, I know Janae's in here. I'll say, Janae, I got your lunch today. Don't worry about it. I got your lunch. You good, right? So she didn't expect that, but it's an unexpected gift for her in that moment, and that's an appreciator. Like, yo, I just appreciate you just for GP, right? Or Marcel, hey, Marcel, I got this for you. This is what it is, or we're going to do this. So I think it's really getting to know your staff member and the people that you're working with, because we spend a lot of time with them. So let's figure them out. So one challenge I give to you, really start listening to your colleagues and figuring out, hey, random gifts or random words, or maybe you want to send them a note, anything.
Yeah. And then the other part of that is students, right? So then how do students know they're appreciated? It's the same questions, right? So our coaches have to show appreciation to their caseloads. Our teachers are showing appreciation to their classes. And so this feeling of appreciation then increases attendance for students, increases credit attainment for students, increases grad planning. And so appreciation is kind of the foundational culture value that we then build on from celebration and joy. So, as I just said, we have our culture values, and then this other part of culture is buy-in, right? So you can have the best culture values that you ever wanted, but if no one likes your culture, well, it's not even about like, if no one believes in the culture values, then there's not going to be any culture, right? So you're going to be living your culture values in your school by yourself in your Dallas hat, just chilling, just being in your hat by yourself. And I think the biggest thing, like, you know, if people don't love the Cowboys, then there's going to be one Cowboys fan. But I think in all reality, the big question that we're going to move to next is how do you create buy-in? And this is something at GEC DC that we have been really focused on, because our school over the 5 years has definitely gone through an evolution. And the biggest thing was we had to shift the culture to then build buy-in, and buy-in took time, right? You're not going to say, here are my culture values, boom, new school, let's go. And the buy-in comes, and Bee's going to talk a little bit more about this, but the buy-in comes from people trusting the process and having voice in the culture values, and also having faith and voice in everything and how they're carried out, especially to students. So with that, I leave this, I take it to V to talk about buy-in for a few minutes. Oh, he's on mute.
There we go. There we go. I was trying to get a note from Kimberly. I heard she writes good notes. So I was trying to put my email in there. You know, I can't multitask. I suck at multitasking. I'm a monotasker. The best leaders monotask. Anyway, that's my commercial. So buy-in. Staff are willing to take risk if they feel a part of it. Ideas. So as you guys know, we change every 8 weeks. Some people have different ones, about the same. When you have a constant changing environment like that, you have to have people on board, right? Because things may look different from one turn to the next based on data, based on trends, based on what you see. right? But if you have buy-in from your staff, they're willing to jump on board and follow you wherever you're going, right? Even if it doesn't work, they're like, listen, we're good. Let's go back and scrap that. Let's go back and try something else. I heard in a presentation earlier with Tom and Latia, they were doing the coaches. And one thing Latia said was that, listen, we started off doing a coach-teacher, sped teacher collaboration meeting. And she said it right. We were just meeting at first, just to meet. Then we had to break it down and figure out, okay, well, how do we really want to do this thing? But because our staff was bought into it, we started to really break it down and say, and it's still a work in progress, to say, how can we break it down to the finite pieces of it and really get it? So you got to have buy-in. You know, leadership team decisions, input from their teams. We don't just make a decision sometimes and drop it on everybody. We have conversation with our team to say, hey, here's what we're thinking about. Even if it's something we're going to do, we still want to bring it to our staff and say, hey, listen, what's your thought on this? Like right now, we're about to go and we're planning for the fall. And what's the fall going to look like? We did a survey to get buy-in from our staff, because guess what? Without our staff, we don't exist. And we want to get buy-in from our staff. Now, will we cover everyone? No, but will someone bring up an idea that may work? 100% yes. And we really appreciate that. That's helpful. We not only do that, we use our greater goodwill from our headquarters, from the stores to support us in different processes. They come in, they help support students, right? They do one-on-ones, they do mock interviews, anything we need them to support us, because they've bought into our value, they bought into our culture. And then not just that, students come to school and learn if they feel welcome and appreciated. Rules without relationships leads to rebellion. If you're appreciated, you'll be excited. Go where you're celebrated. Exactly, not where you're tolerated, right? Great job.
And I also think the beauty of the Excel Center model is if it's not working, don't continue it, right? So if you see something that's against your culture values and against your mission that's not working, for example, Vershawn brought up the SPED coach teacher meetings. We knew they weren't working in the best way. And so why keep moving forward with something just because you have that structure in place? If the things you have in place aren't actually getting you the culture that you want, then it's time to shift. So we have about, 10 minutes. So we're going to do a few things. So we are now, I'm going to briefly talk about this, then we're going to turn to you. So our session is called Prioritizing Culture. I think it is important to say culture has to be prioritized. If you don't say culture is at the start of everything you do, then you're living in a fantasy world. And culture is truly at the start of everything you do. So how do you prioritize culture? It starts in the leadership team, and then it goes to each team having their own culture that brings back to the general culture. So how do you do this? You trust that the leadership team is moving this into their teams. And it also extends into these virtual spaces. Like I will say it time and time again, that I think the virtual world in the DC area and our GEC has been able to be successful, though we've been in it for now a very long time, because the culture was strong, right? We could take our culture that was in the building and then move it into a virtual space to focus then on student learning and distance learning and everything like that. So the big question for you guys is, what are your current school values? So V's gonna kind of take you through our graphic here. And we're gonna kind of talk for the next 5 minutes on you, but we're gonna leave you with this framework that you're gonna take with you, because we have a small video we wanna show you too.
So listen, I want you to think about right now. So I need everybody in here, turn on your video. Everybody turn on your video. Wendy, you already told me, I know you don't have a camera. Your video, and we can unmute ourselves. We're gonna have a conversation, right? The chat is great, but everybody unmute. Everybody's unmute. Let me see, let's check. Thank you, Kathy, you're unmuted. I see you, Kathy. Let's go, Shane is unmuted. Let's go. Kimberly, I see you. Okay, Parker, okay. Winter, I see you, Winter. Good. All right, cool. Let's have a conversation. I just want to hear from you, right? And tell me about your school culture. We're kind of do a whole Socratic seminar type deal where we'll just pop in and tell us about your current school culture and what do you guys value at your school? Anybody, go ahead.
Yep, and you can also type it in the box too. And then this right here is important. So this is like thinking about from no celebration to party every day. Where are you on this graphic of where do you stand in your celebration, right? So someone just wants to share out what are your school culture values as you see them now, from wherever your position is in your school?
Numbers.
Numbers. Okay, I'm going to type what some people are saying in the chat box.
Okay, numbers. Good. Justin Zabrowski. I
What's
wanted
up?
to call on you because I wanted to say Zabrowski. Did I say
Nailed
it
it.
right?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. What about your culture, Justin?
This is something I've been working on, but honestly, not as quite as a targeted effort as you guys has had, but you gave me a lot of ideas, so thank you. I started implementing pep rallies a couple of years ago because Excel Center culture is kind of non-existent. There's no meeting place. You need to feel it. You need to feel everybody's presence. So we do a student of the week. We announce that at the pep rally. We do certain announcements and stuff, and then we go around and each staff member gives a shout out to a student. And then sometimes we flip it where the students will give shout outs to staff members at the pep rallies too.
I like that. I like that. That's it. We're gonna steal that one. I like that one. Let the students do the shout outs. I like that one.
Is a good one. And also, that's a great idea. At our senior event, we had seniors give awards to staff, and that was kind of flipping it on the script, and it created another way of seeing appreciation from another lens, right?
Yeah.
So we're still in the Socratic seminar moment, but I want to hone in and say something that being honest about where your school culture is not only naming it, but being honest about it is the first step in moving forward, right? Even if it's, so someone said numbers, I forgot who said that. I think oftentimes schools get stuck in the numbers world because we're so outcomes focused. Don't worry, in DC, we have 14 charter goals that we have to meet every year to kind of move our school forward. So we feel you on the numbers. I think I always say it's a balance, right? When we become too numbers driven, the culture suffers. And then when the culture suffers, the numbers dip even more, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of always, I hate the seesaw example, but you're walking this tightrope of tension between numbers and culture. And my biggest advice to everyone in this Zoom room is that you can't let numbers win, because numbers will win if culture wins, right? The culture is good, the numbers will outperform themselves. And the numbers come from people trusting the process, buying into the culture, and seriously living and breathing the culture. And I've always lived by that, but I've never been more impressed by our school culture in the virtual space because of that, right? We've continued to really move and shake and do everything we're doing because people are committed to what we do, but they're also committed to the school culture. And so the moment that numbers outweigh your culture, and the moment that numbers become the priority and not the actual culture, then you've lost that need to develop your culture values. And if your staff is saying that numbers is your culture, then that's all they think that is the priority. So I'm really looking at the clock because we have 7 minutes. Okay, this is really important. V, I'm leaving this to you.
Oh, yes. OMG. I know what that is. I don't have to explain that. All right, so listen, what is this? Before you see this clip, as you said, we're big sports fans here, right? We love sports. Everything we do is sports. We talk sports. We use sports analogies, and it's fun. It creates just a fun, competitive atmosphere. So I'm going to show you a clip. Usually, let me ask you a question. Usually what happens is, and we implement it in our school. So if if I'm out for the day, which is rare, or our coach is out for the day, they put somebody in charge from their team, right? Because we want to continue. It's not sustainable to that person. It's sustainable to GEC, right? And everybody who's up under that person is part of their tree. I call it their leadership tree or their coaching tree. So I'm going to show you a clip where, if you know anything about basketball, right? One of the best teams for the last couple of years. I mean, it is what it is. I'm a Knicks fan, so my team sucked for years. But one of the best teams has been the Golden State Warriors. Steve Kerr, let me show you what he did in this clip. All right, go ahead. It might be a little slow, but go ahead.
Hopefully the internet is working on our side.
I know. Oh, it's slow. Go ahead.
How about letting the players actually run the huddles for this game? He takes the grease board and he hands it to Andre Iguodala. Guess who's coaching the timeouts and the huddles tonight? The Golden State Warrior players are going to do this themselves, and the coaches have abdicated responsibilities and given this game to the players. It was designed by Steve, and it's a way to have them be.
All right, Chaz, you can pause it. So here's what happened. It was kind of, let's put the link in the video so you can watch it on here. Steve Kerr, now you're talking about the Golden State Warriors, right? I watched this one day. I was watching the actual game when this happened. And during a timeout, we know timeouts are the most crucial times because you only get so many of them during a game. Steve Kerr, very nonchalantly, like he's looking in his picture, he said, all right, he wrote up who was actually going to be on the floor. He put the 5 people that were on there, and he just gave the clipboard to Andre Iguodala. And then when you watch the clip, you notice he never glanced back at Andre. He never stood over him to watch him at all. He just said, here you go, right? The only way that that could happen is for a couple of reasons. One, Andre understands the culture that Steve Kerr set in place. Steve Kerr could turn away and talk to his other coaches about what he was having for dinner because he wasn't worried, because there was a culture set in place where Andre is not going to do anything outside of the will of this culture. Wasn't worried, right? So, I mean, I must have watched that clip probably 1,000 times, right? And it was just awesome to see that success breeds success, as someone said, right? If it's already put in place, if there's a culture of this, it's going to continue to happen over and over again. So now, as for you, let's dream, let's plan. What is it that you want? What would you like to see? Or who do you have on your staff who can help build this type of culture in your building? You're the coach right now. Who do you have on your bench that can be Andre Iguodala, right? Think about your entire school building, all your staff. Who can you say, you know what? I'm going to team up with Shayna. I'm going to team up with Rick. I'm going to team up with Julia Compton. And we're going to do that. I'm going to team up with Jones, Cynthia, Christy Norman, who's excited. I'm going to team up with Kelly, who's ready. Who do you have and where can you start? So even if it's you're the person that has to start it, it has to start somewhere. So even if you have a culture of celebratory, how can you take it to the next level?
And I think the big thing, to Rashawn's point, this is the framework. So you have to identify your pillars, then identify your team, right? And it does not have to, everyone on here is not on the leadership team, but it doesn't have to start from the leadership team, but it must stem from there, right? So how do you, if you're not on the leadership team, fuse up the culture values to get them there? Because the culture values have got to start from a bought-in process, and then the team has to buy in. And so we just asked you this, so we're going to ask it, you're going to get these slides. How do you see culture in action? So once you've identified your culture values, then team members who can carry it for you. You then need to actually carve out, like, what does this look like? We spent a whole summer as a leadership team saying we want to have celebration as our culture value, but what does it actually look like in the building? How do people know they're celebrated? And then the bigger question is, how is it perceived from the outside? So if a visitor was to drop into your building, what would they describe the culture as in the 5 or 10 minutes that they were in that building? And those should align, and how should they see it, even if they were only there for like 2 minutes? And so I think, yes, perfect. All right, so this is our second to last slide. So here's our framework that we're leaving you with. So action plan, prioritize, identify your team members, identify your culture members' values, and identify next steps. I think Vershawn and I, we've now been working together for 5 years. That's crazy, 5 years. And I think that, our leadership team had stayed pretty similar for the whole 5 years. And I think that's because we're all bought into why we do what we do at the GEC, but the culture values are what guide us. And I think over the term of the last month, our culture values have brought us together even more and fused our teams to kind of commit even more to what we're doing. And I think you have to make it fun. And so someone said party every day, but with responsibility. Yeah, like if there's not fun in the culture, people aren't going to want to come, right? And then the numbers part, the numbers aren't going to outland anyone else. So V, any lasting points before we have 2 or 3 questions? Because I'm probably over.
Yes, listen, my thing is this: be authentic, be your true self, right? I heard a quote before, and I'll mess up a quote in a minute. It's better to be your true self than a fake someone else, right? Be who you are, and then bring to the table what you can to the table so you can support the greater culture.
Yeah. And the culture is ever changing because people change, but the foundational pillars should not change. And if any questions, I know it's 12. I think we have 1 minute. Any questions before you leave? We put our emails there. Please email us. We are in week 8 of the term, so we are still very much actively here in the Zoom room life. V might play us a song, but do we have any questions for anyone on here? Feel free to ask them or put them in the chat box. If you're a Ravens fan, you can gear them towards me. If you're other fan, not. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Hey, Chelsea and V, this is Marcus. Thank you guys so much. Love the energy, love the content. To the folks on the call, thanks for your participation. I know I've had the pleasure of working with V and Chelsea for 5 years, which sounds crazy. They are very responsive. So if you have questions, you reach out. They're going to get back to you probably. I don't want to set the bar too high, but they'll get back to you real quick. I hate to be a party pooper, but we will move on from this one. I got a session at 1 that I'm leading. I'm going to go drink some caffeine before we resume because I got to bring my energy the way that you guys just set the tone here. So just a quick reminder for all the panelists, we got about 10 minutes until the lunch panel with some graduates from across the country. So take care of yourself, grab some food, grab something to drink, get up and stretch. But again, thank you to V and Chelsea. You guys killed it. So appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.